Welcome back to the channel. Just want to do a video on these Red Wing 415s. In my opinion, for where I am in the Northeast, these are probably, I would say, the second most popular boot from Red Wing that I see every day in the area that I am. And these are called the Dynaforce, and they come in a lot of different variations. These are the 6-inch, and they are they not insulated, but they're waterproof, and they're soft toe. And they have the super sole on the bottom, and they're called the Dynaforce. I just see these a lot, and I would say the number one boot that I see is the Irish Setter Wing Shooter ST, the safety toe. I would say these are the second most popular, and I would also tie second place with the Red Wing 415s, Dynaforce with the newer boot. It's a couple years out now. It's a Traction Tread Light. I see those all the time. Another great boot. These were a great boot too, and I wore these for 2 years, and I've owned these for about 4 years now, but I did 2 years in these in a rotation, and I went, when you consider the rotation, I would say I was in these things for about a year and 4 months maybe. So let's take a look at these things, because they're a good boot. They're a really good boot, and they're a popular boot. All right, so let's start on the bottom of these. These are this is the Super Sole. I would call this the Super Sole 1, the 1.0, not the 2.0. And these are a single density urethane rubber combination outsole. And these are a hard outsole and super long lasting. I mean, these things last a long time. I probably have, I must have, I would say, well over 1,000 miles on cement on these, working in automotive industry. And they can be resold. I just never did it, because by the time I get to that point, there's really not a lot left in the boot. I find it to be just a little bit too worn out for me. I know some people love to resole boots. I'm not a big resole guy, because I don't know, I just destroy them so much that by the time they're due for a resole, they're already pretty wiped out, as you can see with this boot. All right, so Super Sole, right? And then if you come down here, that is a 360-degree welt, but it's not a stitched down Goodyear style welt. It's a synthetic welt, but they can be resoled. You can resole these. And I've seen it done, and it's interesting because it's not your typical resole. Like when you pull the sole off of these and you're left with that welt, what's underneath it, that's what they consider to be the Dynaforce of this. And if you ask my opinion what that is, it's rubber. It's basically, picture this outsole being torn off at this point. And then you look inside here, underneath there, instead of there being like a cork or a leather veg tan footbed, it's basically like this hard rubber. So you see this section get pulled off, and underneath there, it's just like encased with this like rubber up until where you get to, I don't know if it's a fiberboard or whatnot, and then your insole. So you see these occasionally getting resoled, and they'll tear this off, and then you'll see the carver kind of scraping away or just trying to Dremel out whatever rubber is uneven in there, and then they'll try to patch it with a new piece of rubber, and then they'll slap that new Super Sole onto it. But these are too far gone for that, in my opinion. All right, but let's take a look at the leather. This leather is a nubuck leather, so it's a lightly sanded nubuck. It's oiled and it's waxed. It was, in my opinion, a good leather. I didn't get water in these until I finally tore through the inside barrier. But if you look at my toes, obviously I've done some damage on these, to be expected with what I do, because I kick a lot of stuff in these. I want to talk about how I use these too. But I love this on these boots. The toe is really pronounced, and it's not steel toe. This is like a Celastic, I imagine. I've never cut them open and looked at it. So they were able to handle a lot of abuse and still hold their shape. They didn't get pulled back, super pulled back, which I don't care for in a boot. I like that toe shape, how it stays like that. So that was a good thing. On the left boot, I definitely did some cracking of the leather, as you can see right there. And I did treat these. I treated these with, I did a lot of treatments on these. I did mink, I did snow seal, I did Red Wing boot conditioner cream. I did that, but I just couldn't prevent some cracking going on. But these were really heavily used. And I actually tore a little section of this away right there. You see that? That was me kicking through a piece of aluminum on a pool when I was tearing it down, and I sliced right into that. And I tried to repair it. I think I used a combination of, what was it? Some sort of adhesive and some plastic shavings and I think I even put JB Weld in there for a while to try to hold it. It did seal it up pretty well for a while, but then it just kind of broke through. So obviously I just use these as spares, but they serve me well. I will say they're not the most comfortable boot in the world for someone like me on hard cement. And you'll hear other people say that too. Like, it's mixed reviews on these for comfort because of that single density outsole. It's a lot. It's a stiff feeling on the foot, and it's a long lasting boot. And their claim is that it can disperse your weight across the outsole and your midsole because of what they put in there, which in my opinion is just like a high density urethane. But it works. It does work. And the traction was outstanding, even though it doesn't look like it would be. I was able to wear these things, like I said, for about a year and change. On automotive floors, I do a lot of yard work in these things. A typical week, this is what it'll be. 5 days automotive, grease, oil, antifreeze, metal, rust, salt, into the leather, up into the welts. Friday, a big cleanup, like we clean the shop floors, which meant like a heavy detergent soap on the floor with water, and it sloshed through that. Probably wasn't the best thing for the leather, but it rinsed a lot of the stuff off. And I treat these things probably about once a month with some sort of oil. I've had these, all right, so that would be a typical week. Then I would mountain bike on the weekends in the winter in these things. I'm talking technical, single track, and temperatures that were, oh my God, I'm talking 0 degrees out, freezing. Those were pretty warm, I gotta say. Never got water them out there. I've hiked in them. I've dug ditches and trench work. I've done lots of yard work. I even wore these to the gym a few times. I played a game of football in these things, which wasn't fun, but I did that. I just used them. I used them pretty hard. All right, this is what I didn't like about them. And this is the one fault I really had. This is probably my 5th set of laces too, by the way, so they look really ugly at this point. But check this out. I hated the tongues on these. Brutal. I just could never, ever keep these things straight, no matter what I did. I couldn't do it. They'd always twist. I ate right through that. My laces tore right through the tongue on the right boot. That did a number on that one. This one twisted same way, but not quite as bad. I got a little twist, a little chewing on it. Not too bad. The gusset goes up to about here, so I got about, I'd say 5 inches worth of water protection. This one, the liner finally gave way after about the 1 year mark. And I took the insoles out of these things. They have a unique little pattern that almost looks like a hockey skate on the inside of that. When you get down the bottom, it's not the same liner. It's different, but it works. And they had a name for that, and I can't remember what it was. But usually, you know, you're gonna wipe through a liner on a waterproof boot, and it took a long time. And this one, I did not actually wipe through the liner. It came close, but I did not wipe through it, so I was impressed with that. I've never really gotten water in these. I will wear these occasionally still if I'm doing some really nasty work. Like if I'm getting these things, if I'm doing something where it's gonna be soaked, chemicals, mud, I might toss these on. If it's like super cold outside, I might toss these on. They're only a 6-inch boot. Now, you might say there's no way that's the second most popular boot up in the Northeast. Well, just keep in mind, this thing comes in so many different configurations that it's not even funny. So you get 6-inch, you get 8-inch, you get steel toe, you get non-steel toe, you get insulated, you get waterproof. I think they even make one that's not even insulated or waterproof, but I could be wrong. So I do see them. I see them a lot, and I see people wearing these things down to nothing. Like I saw a guy at the gym, he comes in wearing these things, right? He's an electrician. I saw him 3 years ago on these. I say, hey, I got the same pair of boots. He's like, oh, wow, good, right? 3 years later, he still had these things. And I hadn't talked to him in 3 years. And I said, hey, you still wearing those boots, huh? And he looked at me like, who is this guy? This guy's strange. And I'm like, the boots. He goes, oh, yeah. They were wiped down to nothing. And he was still wearing them. An electrician. I couldn't believe it. He goes, yeah. My wife's gonna get mad. I have to buy a new insole. I'm like, you're on your first insole in these things? You have no outsole left. I'm like, they're 15 bucks at Walmart right across the street. Whatever. But talk about people that will just keep going in these things. They really do. I've definitely talked to a lot of people that own these, and it's like love-hate relationship with these things. Some people absolutely love them. Other people, they hate them. It's weird, but they are super popular where I am. Not my favorite boot. I love Red Wings. I think Red Wings is probably my favorite brand. I would probably place these, I don't know, top 5, 6 maybe. I would probably put the Traction Tread Light pretty high. I mean, I gotta say, Traction Tread Light, great boot. Love their, the heritage stuff. I don't see a lot of Red Wing 2414s where I am. I believe that's what they're called. I don't see a ton of them, but I see a ton of these. Like I said, probably the second most popular with the Irish Setter Wing Shooter ST. By far the most popular boot I see. And I'm going to do a video on those too, because I own a pair of those, couple pairs. But yeah, the Red Wing 415s definitely got my money's worth out of these suckers. Served me well. They give you a nice little flex on the back. That helped with some ankle pain and Achilles pain. Rolled over padded collar, comfortable, only 6-inch. I since have gone to a more of an 8-inch boot, but I wanted to roll these out because I wore them for a long time. I still own them, and they serve me well. And I tell you what, they are a popular boot in a lot of trades. A little heavy, but if you're on cement floors, this could be the boot for you. It's a pretty decent boot. One more thing before I go. These were about $199 when I bought them. They are now $265 for the 6-inch. So they've gone up substantially, but I think you're still getting a high quality work boot at that price range. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.